Hi, this is Laura Williams. Thank you for joining us on the Indie Office Hours this week. Charlotte is out of town. She's in Scotland doing dancing with her daughters. And this week we are going to cover websites and how important they are to your indie publishing and author business, and how you can have a better website that will work better for your business. Our guest this week is Christine DeGraff, and I'm going to let Christine introduce herself. Go ahead, Christine. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
You're
My
welcome.
name is Christine DeGraff. I don't think a lot of people here on Google Plus know it, but I was a web developer for 17 years. I was the lead programmer for the Philadelphia Flyers for a couple years, and then I started my own business with my father. We were in business for 7 years, I believe, and so I'm happy to be here. It's nice to be talking about something that that I've done for so long.
Well, we appreciate you having it, because I really do think that this is something you can speak to well. And our intention with all the Indie Office Hours shows is to give people something valuable that they can take into their business and improve. We were talking in the green room about the first thing that a person should consider when either initially designing or redesigning their website, and you mentioned that would be content. Could you explain that, exactly what you mean, and what are a few things that you think that should be handled right off the bat?
Yeah, I think people, when sometimes you put the cart before the horse when you want to design a website, and you start thinking about colors, you start thinking about graphics, and the most important thing is to think about your content, and think of the website as just a vehicle to package and deliver your content. Your content is what people are coming to see. We are way past the stage of people just coming to a website because it's pretty or because it's cool. Obviously, you want to have a great looking design so that you stand out and catch their attention, but it's the content that is going to drive visitors and return visitors and hopefully conversions, and get people to become clients or subscribers. So I think that thinking of the content first is very important. It's going to determine what type of layout you use. How many pages are you going to need? How are you going to organize it? And without knowing your basic, the content that you're trying to get across, you can't even start. I think that then you need to start to, once you have really thought about your content, have really organized it, flow charted it, printed it out, whatever you need to do, then you need to start thinking about removing some of the content that's not necessary, and what is your minimal, think about a lot of people are browsing on phones nowadays and very small screens. So, you need to consider that and find what is the absolute minimum that you need to get your point across, and that can be, built on for larger screens. But still, you don't want to just have graphics for the sake of graphics or information for the sake of information. It needs to be useful. So usability is, a big point to consider.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I'm a huge fan of minimalistic, simple information sites. I think that you're taking away from your business if you give too much information, because then they don't have a reason to click somewhere or to call you or to get the answers, look for the answers that they want, which is what you want them to do. You want them to stay on your site, and you want them to go to different pages and look for information. If you have a whole page of text as your first page and it answers all their questions, you're not doing your site any justice at all.
Now, on the other hand, there's some information that you don't want them to have to search for. That should be very clear. Say your phone number, for example.
Right.
Your what do you call it? Telling people who you are, what your purpose
like your
is.
elevator speech.
Yeah, your call to action. You don't want people to have to be saying, okay, I want to buy this how do I do that? You know, like you
Right.
want to make it very easy for people. So there are things that need to be, you know, very front and center. But like you
Absolutely.
said, just big blocks of, you know, text is not good. You know, you want to learn how to write for the web. You know, that's not writing for the search engines. It's writing for the web, so that the way people read on the web is different than the way they read a book. You know,
Exactly.
they need blocks of shorter paragraphs of text. They need to be able to easily scan. You know, we've all seen those heat maps of how people, you know, scan a page, and they need to be able to have short headlines and shorter blocks of text and bullet points and, you know, big calls to action.
Yep, I agree with you. I agree with you. The you know, I have a, like I told you earlier, I have a background in web design, and I had asked myself this morning that if a client came to me that was a publisher and wanted a site published, what would I do for them? What would be my advice to them? And my first advice would be that as a publishing company, you work for authors. So have what books you're representing your authors first, because that's what somebody who is interested in you as a publisher, the first thing they're going to look for is who are you handling, what projects have you completed, yada, yada, yada. So I think that if you're doing a specific site for a publisher, you should take that in consideration and get that information up front. And your business kind of secondary, because if they're interested in their business, they'll stay on there. But they give them the first information they need first. But make it easy, like you were saying, to where your about pages, you know, they know exactly where it is. So when they want to learn more about the publishing business and all that, it's right there available to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that it's you know, you have to really think about your direction. Web design isn't just about writing code, and a lot of people are terrified of building their own websites because they don't want to write any code. But right, with WordPress being so popular right now and so easy to use, you can get even free templates that can lay out the design for you. For the most part, I mean, you can really have a nice website in a very short amount of time. And it's going to meet your what you want design-wise and look the way you want. And then you just put in your content, and you have an up-and-running website that people will find attractive and will stay on.
Yeah, it's funny, I was telling you in the green room, for 17 years, I mean, I designed only custom designs, no templates, you know, and then I actually stopped doing websites about a year ago, and this year I needed a website for myself, for a music, you know, website that I have. And I said, you know, I could either start this from scratch or I could get this done quick, and there's so many, you know, beautiful templates to choose from nowadays. I'm just going to go the template route. So, you know, imagine a web designer now, you know, using templates. But I mean, so I spent, you know, well, first I figured out, you know, exactly what information I wanted to have on my website. And then I spent, you know, several hours looking for, you know, the perfect template that I would, you know, I knew I would probably have to make some tweaks to it, but I was trying to find something that basically, you know, hit all, especially usability, you know, requirements that I had, you know, making sure it was responsive so it resized nicely to the phone. You know, I needed multiple, I wanted the ability to have multiple sidebars, you know, so I found one that had an unlimited one. You know, so I didn't feel like getting into the coding of it. And, you know, I just had my criteria. I had a certain look I was after. I found a template. It was $50, you know, and I spent probably a day or two tweaking it and getting my content in, and I was done. So, you know, it really doesn't have to be, you know, it's so much easier now than it was a long time ago. You know, anyone can have a very professional-looking website. I think one of the keys is to understand what a professional-looking website looks like, because it can, you know, just like when you were, say, 5 years old and the first painting you did, it looked beautiful to you. You know, 17 years ago, the first website I did looked beautiful to me, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. You know, and I think that so getting yourself up to speed quickly on what looks good and why is really going to help you. And you can simply, you know, search for Web Design Trends 2014. You can search for what makes a a good website layout, usability, and web design 2014, things like that, and read them, do some research, and understand what it is that people, that the professionals are saying makes a good web design. It'll really help you understand, what the current trends are, first of all, and just what some of the general basic best practices are. And you can. I think that it can be hard to, like, for example, if you don't have a graphic design background, you might not understand the concept of white space, or which is lack of content around certain things. So you might not understand that a half an inch or that things can be too close. That, say, if you have two paragraphs next to each other, and if they're a half an inch off, or less than that, an eighth of an inch off, it's going to look cluttered. Where if you just spaced it out a little more, it would look very clean. And I think that that's just kind of an eye that you need to develop, but you can do it quickly if you spend time researching.
Sure, and I think you're absolutely right. There's a learning curve to it. I found when I decided to do the redesign on my business site, I went and looked at how it'll, like you were saying, the articles that had the 10 or 20 best websites or whatever. I went there and looked. One of the interesting things I had found out is when I'd done the initial design, sliders were in. It was like everybody was using sliders. Well, when I went back, now they're moving away from them. The reason they're moving away from them is because of the mobile phones. They can get real quirky on mobile phones and don't work very well. So it does. It really helps to take some time and look at what you're doing. And then if you're not a designer, or if you're not good at matching your clothes, you probably are not going to know right out the box what a good website looks at. So go and look. There's all kinds of infographics that are available that explain the colors to use with each other, how to properly, like you said, space things, how to get the look that you're looking for. I mean, Pinterest is a great resource for that. If you put in web design, you wouldn't believe the information that comes up.
I would say one thing is if you've never done it before, if you don't have a background in graphic design, if you really do have this steep learning curve, is find a good template and don't change it too much. That's where you're going to take it from something that does look professional out of the box, and you're going to say, well, how would this headline look in pink? And and how and what about green text here and orange text here? And I think that that's if that's not your strong point, just let go with what is already been designed instead of making the changes.
I absolutely agree with that. Those templates and themes are designed by professionals, and probably 90% of them look really good to start with. Look for the ones that are not the most popular, but the ones that are real popular, because those have been vetted. People have used them, and they're working well for them, and that's why they keep gaining in popularity. You don't want to look like everybody else, but still, keep that in mind. Susan Finch said, "Go Christine DeGraff, content first, not the pretty part. Please, everyone, listen to the critical point. First mission and purpose." Yeah, she's definitely right. Definitely right.
And it's everyone's tempted to jump in and say, oh, let's just pick the template and make it pretty, and the content's not always the fun part, but for you guys as writers, the content should be the fun part. So.
That's true. That's true. But also on that point, though, keep in mind that if you have too much written content in big blocks of text, people don't pay attention to it. We were talking too about ways that publishers could generate content, because we do, I do realize that you're busy, and that's another fear that people have with their websites. One reason they sit there is, I don't have time to write for it. Well, offer it to your authors. If they would like to write about their book or their book's characters or a problem that they're having in their business, that they can, vet it through you. They can send it to you, and you can post it on your blog, and it's creating content, so people keep going to your site and seeing that it's fresh and that it's interesting, and give them a reason to go there. I was saying that sometimes people an author will think for a long time about actually publishing their book. So if all along they've been going to your website because you have interesting content, when they get ready to pick their publisher, you're going to be one of the first ones that they think of.
Yeah,
So,
and like I haven't written a book, but I've always wanted to, so maybe someday. You know, I could tell you now that if I was shopping for a publisher, you know, I would probably visit 20 or 30 different publishers' websites. I would do my due diligence and you know, so you're going to want to make sure that you stand out with a professional design. That's the only, you know, if the design melts in the background, actually, that's what I consider professional, not when it pops out in your face. You know, I don't go to a website and say, wow, this is a professionally designed website. You know, you go to a website and you don't even notice the design because it's so well done. You know, those are the ones that are, you know, that you're going to stick around and read, that they, you know, you're going to look at. And like I was saying, if I'm going to visit 20 or 30 sites, you know, then I'm probably going to narrow it down and, you know, bookmark the ones that I really liked, and I'm going to want to go back to them. So, you know, those 3 or 5 or however many, and that could be a week or 2 later. And, you know, the ones that have the new content on them, they're going to get me to stay on their site longer. And, you know, that's one of the, you know, obviously the longer you're on someone's site and the more that you're reading, you know, the more likely you are to become a client.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know, as a publisher or a self-publisher or a self-publishing author, your website is your business. That's the beginning and the end of it. You want everything to go out of your website and you want it to come back to your website. So you really have to take time to think about how that process is going to work, what you can offer to your authors, what you can offer to the publishing community, to prospective authors, and that can bring them into your site. And I think when you're just sitting there deciding on the content of your website, to really give that some thought and include that in your structure. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish with your website? And use it as a tool in your business, not just a parking place on the internet for a bunch of information. Use it actually as a tool. Because the way websites are done now, that's what they're built to be used as. They're built to be used as a tool. It used to be, you know, back in the day, a website did just sit there, but we figured out how to do things a lot better now. So
absolutely, absolutely, yes. You don't. If you have the 5-page brochure website, you know, nowadays that is not going to work for you. You know, you need to get blogging. You need to, you know, update that website.
Yep. Now, we talked about all this time about building your own website, but I do also want to say, if you are not comfortable doing your own website, even if you don't have the money to do pay a professional, consider bartering your services with a professional. Maybe you'll write content for them, for one of their clients or something, do an exchange of services. But try it. Get a good website, because it's going to make your business better, it's going to make your message better, and you're going to gain more authors through that because you'll be taken more seriously. So I think there's workarounds for that. Because, I mean, I know it can be expensive to hire. I mean, I used to do it, so I know what I charge. But to hire a designer can be pretty expensive. But if you can fill a hole for them somewhere, you know, a lot of them will barter with you. And I know now that I do writing, business writing, I write for a lot of web designers because their thing isn't writing. So it is something you can consider. Now we were going to talk about best use. What are ways that publisher could use their website to get the information about their authors and also to bring in new authors? Did you have any ideas on that, Christine?
Well, I do like your idea about having your authors blog for you, or, you know, I definitely think that that could really be a big draw. You know, I don't know too much about the publishing industry, you know, or anything, but I definitely think that, you know, a lot of what can happen, the same thing with web designers, for example, is, you know, people are kind of at the decision point when they're doing their research. A lot of them are at the decision point, am I going to do it myself, or am I going to hire a professional? Now, if they're going to do it themselves, the one thing I definitely recommend, like I said, is to do research, and to do a lot of research. And if the professional is providing you with great tips and great information that can help you, you may end up at some point, you're gonna see them as an authority, as an influencer, as your resource. And whether you use them or not, you may refer them. The same thing. Say if you're a general contractor or a painter, same thing. There's going to be some that are going to want to do it themselves, and there are going to be some that want to hire you. The thing is that you want all of them to come to you for information. So, as a independent publisher, you want to be giving away, how to do it, the tips, because there are other people who are trying to do it as well. And the more that you can provide them, the more help that you give them, you become more of a resource, for everyone to be drawn to.
Exactly. Yep. And if you offer, let's say if you offered something free on like the 10 best ways to self-publish, and you use that in an email capture system, that gives you another avenue that when your authors are launching their books to send it out to a new audience. Now that audience that you have is going to be other publishers, authors, people who are just investigating it, but it's gonna help you get some traction. And I think that key things like that, having some type of email capture system, having your call to action as far as how to contact you for your services, having updated good links to the books that you have dealt with, and that's another point I wanted to make too, is every so often, as every couple of months, go in and check your links. Make sure that your links are still active. I cannot stand to go to an article somewhere and click on a link and it doesn't go to where it's supposed to go. It just makes me crazy.
Yes, and that's one thing, that's kind of like, I think almost should be going without saying, but I guess it needs to be said, is, you need to use spell check. You need to check your links. You need to, make sure your content doesn't get outdated. You need to you just don't want to just publish it and leave it there. You want it, it's a living, breathing, it's your business in many cases, and you want to make sure that it's, kept up to date. If you change the name of your business, you're going to change your sign out front. It's the same thing with your website. If you change things, you're going to need to make changes on it. You don't just leave it. It's not a one and done. It is definitely something you need to constantly, is it up? Because websites go down. The links, you're linking to other people's websites. They can take their page down, and like you said, then the links are broken. So you need to keep an eye on your website.
There's probably 1,000 things we could say about websites, which we don't have that much time. But another thing I wanted to mention too is to make sure that your site is not only user-friendly, but it's kind of current as far as design trends go. It's not a bad idea to once a year evaluate your website and see if it is starting to look outdated, like you said, or if there's some design problems that are created just because of the change in the internet and how it works. And also to make sure that you always have your social sharing links, anything that can drive traffic to or away from your website to another piece of content that's important. It sounds like so much work, but once you get it down and you have a whole lot. One of the great things about doing it yourself is you have that learning experience, and once you have that learning experience, it's easier to recognize problems and to figure out solutions than if somebody had designed the website for you and now you can't get a hold of them and you have this website that's sitting there. So
I wanted to bring up Brian Shea says he disagrees with me on the 5-page brochure website is not good enough. It comes down to your needs, your business, and your clients. For some, a single-page site is good enough. And I do agree with him. That was kind of a general statement. So
yeah. I think it depends on what your business is. If you have like a product that you're just selling online that's not really as dynamic a situation as being a publisher, I definitely see that. I agree with that too. Yep.
Yes.
Yep, there's all different kinds of situations. And what was this Carmen was saying? Some people are better at some things than others, but few people are good at everything. And you learn from those who know better than you. Share the work. Absolutely right. And it's surprising. You'll find that if you start talking with your friends and your colleagues and things, say, I am just having such fits designing this website, that somebody will say, well, look at the one I did. I can do something like this. And, you know, I mean, people will work with you. People are helpful if you look for it. If you look for it. Okay, we've got about 5 more minutes, so I just wanted to ask you, Christine, what do you have coming up? What do you have that you would like to share with us?
Well, let's see. I have a music hangout website. This is the one that I just, I went and got a template for. So we're doing some music stuff there. It's mymusichangout.com. And I mean, that's a perfect example. I'm getting so many compliments on it, and I didn't even design it. I just purchased a template. But it is very unique though, because it's the content that is that's making the design great. It's basically it's just placeholders for your content, and it's how you put your content together that's going to make a difference. I definitely don't use graphics just for the sake of using graphics. They need to have purpose. I do have a slider across the top that shows the next band that's coming up, and there are lots of images on the page, but they all have a purpose. I think that's kind of an important.
But too, that's also indicative of what that type of field is. The music. I mean, the music is of course, audio and visual, so you would have a lot of visual type things. It's not so much an information situation. It's more of an emotional type thing. And I wanted to tell you that music, my music hangout is really awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Really
awesome. and it's not a perfect website either. And and it has lots of areas for improvement. But one of the things is that I got it done, and it is serving its purpose. And a lot of people can, I guess that's why I haven't written a book, is I don't know where to start. And I think a lot of people with web design, they don't know where to start. So if you really don't know where to start, and you can't learn it, or for whatever reason, or you don't have time, you might need to hire somebody. And I'm definitely not saying that web designers, that you should never hire a web designer, because
no.
a lot of people, first of all, they just they want to work on they have other things in their business they want to work on, and they want to delegate out. But there are so many people who want to do it themselves. They truly want that experience. They and I'm not, who should take that away from them? It's just like, I painted the walls of my house. Now, I could have hired a professional painter, and it probably would have looked a lot better. But it's good enough for me, and and it serves its purpose, and I think that.
And you get that good feeling though too, that you accomplished something, that you did it yourself.
Absolutely,
and that's worth a lot.
Just as long as it is design it as professionally as you possibly can, learn everything you can, and then make sure it's working for you. If it ends up and it's not working, if you're not getting any clients, if you're not getting any sales, it might not be working for you, and you need to figure out why it isn't.
Also on the note of hiring somebody is really communicate with them, communicate your ideas and what your goals are, so that they know what you need. You don't want to have them have all this time into a site, and then when they show it to you, it has nothing to do with what you're trying to do because you miscommunicated something. That's sometimes how you run into a lot of money. So really pay attention to that, and make sure when you go to hire somebody, vet them a little bit. Make sure that they're going to do a good job for you, that they have good references. Some friends of yours used them, and they were real happy with them. I would definitely recommend that for sure.
Just like hiring a publisher,
Yes.
Do your research, do your due diligence, and see who they've worked with before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tie things up here. Tomorrow night is Wednesday, and I do the writing biz, and we'll be going over simplifying and organizing your social media to make it a little bit easier, because we know you spend your time writing. Charlotte's going to be gone again next week. Next week, the show will be on content, on how to build up a content base for your website and your publishing company. Christine, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who watched today. There were some great comments. I know we didn't get to all of them, but like I said, there's 1,000 things we could have said about websites, so it's really hard to kind of cram it all into 30 minutes. But I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.